You deserve phenomenal and enormous credit. You were fighting on the trans issue before I was, before anybody was, when it was not an 80-20 issue, when Republicans seemed destined for surrender, when Jenner went on the front page, I think, of Vogue magazine, and Republicans were like, oh, that's it. Let's just put our hands up. You were uncompromising with incredible rigidity. And you're like, nope, we're not going to do this. Actually, we're going to dig in. And now it's like seemingly unpopular. Even on the more mainstream prior trans stuff, it's unpopular and just gross and disgusting. Matt, walk us through the decades-long journey from 2015 to today on the public opinion battle that you were heavily involved in.
Yeah, I always say that I don't know how much public opinion actually changed. I think that if you were to go back to, say, 2019, 2020, and you were to ask, do a poll of everyday Americans and ask them about the trans issue and should men be allowed in women's sports and bathrooms and should we be doing these kinds of gender transition procedures to kids, I think you would have found many more people than you'd find today who would answer in the affirmative. But I don't think that most of them actually believed that at the time. So I don't think that, the trans activists never actually persuaded anyone, or I think they persuaded very few people. What was happening for about 5, 6, 7 years is that they successfully scared people into silence. They used emotional blackmail very effectively. There was this emotional blackmail campaign that was just ruthless and relentless, and for a lot of people, it just blindsided them. And this was being done not just with the public generally, but most nefariously with parents who'd never even heard of the trans issue, really, were all of a sudden being told that, oh, if you don't let your kid transition, they're going to kill themselves. And a lot of parents they didn't know how to respond to that. It's like when you're being told that as a parent, it's very jarring. So I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened for the first, half of the decade where this fight's been going on, is people were scared into silence. And then it just became a process of letting people know that it's like we all know this is not right. We all know this is crazy. We all know that Bruce Jenner is not really a woman. We all know that. We know that. And it's okay for you to say what you know to be true. And the thing is, that's the thing about kind of a mass hysteria, is that it can, we've seen this happen with COVID. We've seen it happen with BLM and George Floyd. We've seen it happen many times over the last decade in particular. But the good thing about the mass hysteria, if there can be anything good about it, is that it comes on very quickly, but it can also be broken. You can break the fever very quickly. And it just takes a few people at first who are willing to stand up and say, no, this is right. This isn't right. This is crazy. We all know this is crazy. And then a few people say that. A few other people sort of will meekly stand up and say, yeah, I think he's right. And then before you know it, the fever is broken and the mass hysteria has faded away.